I'm Pearson, and I hope you've been enjoying the course so far. This part is going to be about the classic power chord. The power chord, alright, used a lot in rock, a lot in punk music, used in contemporary music as well. I've used it in R&B situations and sometimes in jazz as well. Crops up all the time, and it's a really good thing for beginner guitarists to get a handle on, because it can unlock some quite advanced sounding chord progressions without actually having to do that much with the left hand. Basically, we have to look at the first thing, which is the shape of the power chord. The shape never changes. So unlike the open position chords we've been covering so far, the power chord just stays the same the whole time. So once you get it once you put in the effort and the work to get a really good sounding power chord, you then don't really need to learn anything new. You just got to shift it around the fretboard. So we're gonna work on one power chord, which is going to be an A power chord. First finger, we're going to zoom in, show you the fretboard so we can see where the fingers line up, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some exercises that are going to help develop this left hand strength. Okay, first finger then is going to go on the 5th fret on the lowest string here, the E string. Just pluck that note, make sure it's fretted correctly. Should sound something like that. The next note is going to be with the 3rd or the 4th finger, depending on how the size of your hands. I use the 4th finger here, but you can also use the 3rd finger. It's going to go on the 7th fret on the string below the one that you're already fretting on. So it's going to be on the A string, and it's going to be here. You can, however, use the 4th finger if that is too much of a stretch for the 3rd finger, because for a lot of people it is too much of a stretch. The 4th finger can come in here, and then you've got it right here. So make sure that that note is playing correctly. Should sound something like that. Now the other fingers need to sort of be hovering, relaxed, not doing too much. Now, unlike all the other chords we've been working on before, these are very different to the usual chords in the fact that you don't need to be on the tips like this to make sure that the other strings ring out. You actually want to make sure that the strings other than the ones you're fretting are muted. And one way of doing that is just relaxing the first finger here across the string and then pushing down on the 5th fret, just on the tip. And that way the strings here are muted, but the string you're fretting actually comes out. Then the 4th finger can just sit quite nicely on that 7th fret there. Because what's going to happen is you're going to strum this as a chord, but you're only going to be wanting to hear 2 notes. So you don't want it to be like with 6 strings. You want it to be muted and only the strings that you're playing to come out of the guitar there. Okay, so we need to develop this. Once you've got these 2 notes here, I want you to give it a strum, bearing in mind the first finger needs to be trying to mute as many of the strings as you can. But you can also help the situation by having the fretting hand working on the 2 notes here. So rather than doing full strums, just do a small strum on the 2 notes there. Okay, one exercise we need to do to develop the strength on the left hand. So the exercise that we need to do is sliding from one string to the next up and down the fretboard, getting used to this power chord position. So give it a strum on just the 1, just the 1 strum on that. Then move it up a fret and give it a strum 1 fret up. When you do this, don't hold the pressure down on the fingers. Whenever you're sliding from one to the next, it is a slide, not a forced movement. You should be strumming, releasing so that the notes stop ringing, slide it up across the strings. No pressure should be on the left hand. Then push down just behind the frets with the 1st and the 4th finger, keeping that 2 fret gap between the frets here, and then give it another strum. Release, slide up just behind the frets, push down, and don't push down too hard. You don't need to be forcing the strings down. With most guitars, you only need a slight amount of pressure, and that's about having good technique, is only putting down as much pressure as you need to get a good sound. So then you can see where this is going. Release, move it up, release, move it up, release, move it up. That is one exercise that will develop this left hand strength, because you're pushing down, releasing, and you're getting experience of the frets as they close up, getting used to the stretches that you need to do the correct sort of power chord there. The final exercise that's going to develop this power chord idea is crossing strings, because it's fine if you're playing power chords, fine if you're sliding on one string, but then at some point you're going to need to cross strings and do power chords from a different note. So let's do an exercise that develops that. Line up on this first A power chord that we worked on. Make sure it's got a nice strum, and make sure you're muting with the left hand as much as possible. Then we're going to move down a set of strings. So the first finger is going to be on the 5th fret on the A string now. The 4th finger is going to be on the 7th fret on the D string. You should get 2 notes that sound like that. That's another power chord. It's a D power chord, in case you wanted to know. And then you can hopefully see where this is going. You then move across strings again. Now, what happens as you cross strings, you're going to be leaving open strings here. You've got to watch out for them. Once you start crossing strings, especially when you're on the D string here, where we just got to, you've got 2 open strings that you don't want to hit when you're playing a chord, because it will sound pretty awful depending on what fret you're on. So you've got to be careful that you're only strumming with the right hand on these strings that you have lined up. Okay, now the power chord shape stays the same across the first, the next string, the 3rd string here. When you get to the 4th one, there's a slight difference. Because of the way the guitar is tuned, whenever you are on or cross the B string, which is the 2nd thinnest string here, something has to change with the shape. So where our power chord shape has to change slightly. Instead of being the same, the little finger needs to stretch 1 more fret, which you can see here. Then you've got your power chord. Otherwise it would sound like this, which doesn't sound the same. You've got to make sure it sounds like this, which is the power chord. When you get to the final set of strings, it's then the usual shape. So practice going from the low, moving through the strings, and finally, and then if you've got some time, bring it back down. That's some exercises that will help develop the power chord strength, the shape, and the feel. And I'm going to be teaching you some songs in level 3 that will actually use power chords to give you a hand with developing this technique. Now, the final thing, and it's a little bit of theory here, so bear with me. I'm going to try and make it as simple as possible. It's very important that you know what note you need to play. So if I was to tell you to play a C power chord, or a B power chord, or an A power chord, you need to know whereabouts on the fretboard all of that is. So we're going to do a little bit of theory in this part here, which I'm going to talk you through right now.